My mother, Marilyn, told me I ruined her perfect family legacy the day I used drugs. She abandoned me on the streets, threatened anyone who tried to help me, and didn't speak to me for 5 years. But now that I have a daughter, she's demanding access, not to apologize, but to raise my child as the perfect daughter I failed to become. What happened next proved that sometimes the best revenge isn't fighting back. It's living so well that their opinion becomes irrelevant. If you've ever been abandoned by a family who later wanted back in when it was convenient for them, hit that like button right now. Subscribe if you believe that protecting your peace is more important than keeping toxic people happy. Because this story proves that sometimes justice isn't about getting even. It's about breaking the cycle and choosing who deserves to be in your life. In 2020, I did something unforgivable to my family. I stole from them to feed my heroin addiction. My name is Tiffany, and I'm not going to make excuses for what I did. I took electronics from our house, old cell phones, my brother's gaming console, a DVD player, and sold them to buy drugs. These weren't strangers I hurt. This was my family. My mother, Marilyn, my father, Bruce, and my 17-year-old sister, Charlotte. The day they found out what I'd done, I watched my parents' faces change. My father looked at me like I was a stranger who'd broken into his home. But my mother's expression was worse. It wasn't anger. It was disgusting. Like she'd just discovered something rotten had been living under her roof the entire time. Charlotte cried. That was the worst part. My baby sister, who used to look up to me, sobbing in the doorway while our parents packed a bag and drove me to a rehabilitation center 3 hours away. I spent 3 months in that facility. 3 months detoxing, going to therapy, learning coping mechanisms, facing what I'd become. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, and I did it believing that when I got out, my family would see that I was trying, that I was getting better. I called them every week from the facility's phone. No one answered. I left voicemails telling them about my progress, about what I was learning, about how sorry I was. The calls went unreturned. When I completed the program, I took a bus back home with my certificate of completion in my bag and hope in my chest. I'd done it. I was clean. I could start rebuilding. My father was waiting in the driveway when I arrived. He didn't get out of his car. My mother stood on the front porch with her arms crossed. Charlotte was visible through the living room window, crying again. Tiffany, my mother said, her voice completely flat. You are no longer part of this family. We need you to leave and not contact any of us for any reason. Ever. I felt my legs go weak. Mom, I just finished rehab. I'm clean. I'm getting better. You made your choices, she said. Now we're making ours. You're not our daughter anymore. Leave. I tried to explain. I begged. My father started his car engine, a clear signal that if I didn't leave voluntarily, he'd make me leave. I walked away from the only home I'd ever known with one bag and nowhere to go. I called my grandmother Teresa that night from a gas station payphone. She'd always been warm to me, always the type to believe in second chances. Tiffany, honey, she said, and her voice was tight with discomfort. Your mother called me. She said if I help you in any way, if I even talk to you, she'll cut me off from the family completely. I won't be able to see Charlotte grow up. I'm sorry, sweetheart, but I can't risk that. She hung up. I tried my Aunt Denise, my Uncle Alan, my mother's best friend Amber, who I'd known my entire life. The answer was always the same. Marilyn had contacted everyone in our social circle with the same ultimatum: help Tiffany, and you lose access to the rest of the family. I was completely alone. I spent that first week in a homeless shelter, sleeping on a cot surrounded by strangers, staring at the ceiling and wondering if this was rock bottom or if there was further to fall. I'd gotten clean in rehab, but now I understood that staying clean in the real world, especially when you had nothing and no one, was a different battle entirely. The shelter had a job board. I took the first position I could get, dishwasher at a diner, minimum wage, cash at the end of each shift. It was barely enough to eat, but it was something. I found a studio apartment in the worst part of town. The walls were water-stained, the heat barely worked, and I could hear my neighbors through the paper-thin walls. But it was mine. A place to sleep that wasn't a shelter cot. I started seeing a therapist through Medicaid. Her name was Dr. Logan, and she was the first person who listened to me without judgment. What you did was wrong, she told me during our first session. But what they did was abandonment. Those two things can both be true. I cried in her office every week for months. We worked through the grief of losing my entire family, the shame of my addiction, the fear that I'd never be anything more than the worst thing I'd ever done. You can't control whether they forgive you, Dr. Logan said. You can only control who you become from here. So that's what I focused on, becoming someone better. I worked doubles at the diner and saved every penny I could. I enrolled in online classes at the community college, studying late into the night in my tiny apartment. I dropped out of college at 21 when my addiction took over. Now, at 30, I was finally finishing my degree in technical writing. It took 2 years, but I did it. I graduated with honors. No family in the audience when I walked across that stage to get my diploma, but I walked anyway. I applied for jobs across the country. Anywhere that wasn't here, anywhere I could start fresh. A company in another state offered me a position as a technical writer with a salary that seemed impossible. I accepted before they could change their minds. I moved 6 states away and started over. New city, new job, new life. 3 years ago, I met Liam at a coffee shop. He was reading a book about addiction recovery, and I noticed the cover. We started talking. He told me his older brother had struggled with opioid addiction, and that watching that journey had shaped who he was. When I told him about my past, the stealing, the rehab, the family that disowned me, he didn't flinch. My brother's 6 years clean now. He said, he's one of the strongest people I know. Recovery takes courage most people don't have. Liam's family welcomed me in a way I'd forgotten families could. His mother, Teresa, yes, same name as my grandmother, which felt like a sign, hugged me the first time we met and said, anyone Liam loves is family to us. I cried in their bathroom that night, overwhelmed by kindness I hadn't experienced in years. Liam and I got married last year. A small ceremony, his family and a few close friends. No one from my side, because I didn't have a side anymore. 3 months ago, we welcomed our daughter into the world. We named her Charlotte after my sister. Even though I hadn't spoken to her in 5 years, she was still the little girl I'd loved. Naming my daughter after her felt like honoring the family I'd lost while creating the family I was building. I posted pictures of Charlotte on social media because I was a proud new mother and wanted to share my joy with the world. My accounts weren't private. I had nothing to hide anymore. That's when my phone started ringing. The first call came from a number I didn't recognize. I answered, thinking it might be work. Tiffany, it's Aunt Denise. I saw your pictures on Facebook. Your daughter is beautiful. Your mother wants to meet her. My heart stopped. Excuse me? Your mom has been thinking about you a lot lately. Now that you have a baby, she thinks it's time to reconnect. She wants to meet her granddaughter. I hung up without responding. Then came a text from my Uncle Alan. Then a Facebook message from Amber. Then a voicemail from my grandmother, Teresa, the same woman who'd refused to help me when I was homeless. Tiffany, sweetheart, your mother showed me the pictures of the baby. She's precious. I know it's been a while, but family is family. Your mother just wants to be part of her grandchild's life. That's not too much to ask, is it? I deleted the voicemail. Finally, my mother called directly. Tiffany. Her voice was exactly the same. Cold. Controlled. I've seen the photos of your daughter, Bruce, and I would like to arrange a meeting to discuss visitation. Something hot and sharp twisted in my chest. Visitation. We're her grandparents. We have a right to be in her life. You disowned me, I said, my voice shaking. You left me on the streets. You threatened everyone in the family not to help me. You told me I wasn't your daughter anymore. You were using drugs, Tiffany. What did you expect us to do? Support me. Help me get better. Give me a chance to prove I could change. Well, you didn't earn our forgiveness, she said simply, but that doesn't change the fact that Charlotte deserves to know her grandparents. We're her family. No, I said, you're not. Don't be selfish about this. You owe us after everything you put us through. I hung up. The messages kept coming. Daily texts, voicemails, Facebook messages, all with the same theme. I was being unfair. I was keeping them from their grandchild. I owed them this opportunity after the pain I'd caused. My sister Charlotte, the real Charlotte, my now 22-year-old sister, sent me a long email. She said she'd missed me, that our parents talked about me sometimes, usually about how much I'd disappointed them, that they'd been excited when they saw I had a baby, because it meant there was a chance to have a relationship again. But she also said, they don't talk about you like you're a person, Tiff. They talk about you like you're a problem that might have a solution now. I don't think they've changed. I just think they want access to the baby. That email broke my heart and validated everything I'd been feeling. Liam found me crying in our daughter's nursery that night, holding her while she slept. They want to meet her. I told him. They want to be grandparents. After everything they did, they think they deserve access to our child. What do you want to do? He asked. I don't know. Yes, you do, he said gently. You're just afraid of the answer. He was right. Liam suggested we have a video call with my parents. Not to give them what they want, he explained, but to have closure, to say what you need to say, and hear what they have to say, so you can make a decision with all the information. So we arranged a call. Me, Liam, and my mother. My father, Bruce, declined to participate. The call lasted 45 minutes, but I'll never forget what my mother said. Tiffany, you need to understand where we were coming from, Marilyn began. Your father and I worked very hard to build a respectable life. We had a good reputation in our community. When you started using drugs, that reflected on us. People talked. They judged us for your failures. I was sick, I said quietly. I had an addiction. You made choices, she corrected, and those choices had consequences. We couldn't have an addict in our family. It would have damaged everything we'd built. Your father's business, Charlotte's college applications, our standing in the church. All of it would have been affected by association with you. I felt Liam's hand tighten on mine. So you cut me off to protect your reputation, I said. We did what we had to do. And honestly, Tiffany, look at you now. You're successful, you have a career, you're married. You wouldn't have accomplished any of that if we'd enabled your addiction by letting you stay. My therapist had warned me about this. The way people rewrite history to make their cruelty seem like tough love. You left me homeless, Mom. I slept in a shelter. I had nothing. And it motivated you to get your life together. You're welcome. I almost laughed at the audacity. She genuinely believed she'd done me a favor. So why do you want to meet Charlotte? I asked. Because she's family. Because we're her grandparents. Because despite everything, we still care about you and want to be part of your life again. You don't care about me, I said, and I was surprised by how calm my voice sounded. You care about what people will think if they find out you have a grandchild you've never met. You care about appearances just like you did 5 years ago. That's not fair. And here's what I think, I continued. I think you're angry that I succeeded without you. I think you expected me to fail, to come crawling back, to prove that I needed you. But I didn't. I built a life with people who actually love me. And now you want access to that life because it looks good from the outside. My mother's face went hard. You owe us, Tiffany. After what you put us through, after stealing from us, after the embarrassment. I owed you an apology, I said, and I gave you one. Multiple times. You chose not to accept it, but I don't owe you access to my daughter. She's not a second chance for you to have the perfect family. She's my child, and I get to decide who's safe for her to be around. You're making a mistake, Marilyn said coldly. We're her grandparents. We have rights. Liam leaned into the camera frame. No, you don't. You disowned Tiffany. You abandoned her when she needed you most. You don't get to come back now and demand anything. This conversation is over. He ended the call. I sat there for a long moment, shaking. Then I started to cry. But they weren't sad tears. They were relieved. I don't want them in our life. I said. Then they won't be. Liam said simply. We made our decision that night. My parents would not be part of Charlotte's life. Not now, not ever. We would tell her about them when she was old enough to understand, in an age-appropriate way, but they would not have access to her. We also decided to change our last name legally. Liam and I chose a completely new surname together, something that belonged to just us, to the family we were building. Not his family's name. Not my family's name. Our name. It felt like closing one chapter and starting another. The messages from my family continued for a few weeks, then slowly stopped. I blocked most of them, my sister Charlotte, and I still email occasionally. She's in college now, living on campus, creating distance from our parents in her own way. I hope one day we can rebuild something, but I understand if we can't. My daughter is 5 months old now. She's healthy and happy and surrounded by people who love her unconditionally. Liam's family, our chosen friends, the community we've built. She'll never know what it's like to have her worth tied to someone else's expectations. She'll never be abandoned for making mistakes. She'll never be told that love has to be earned back. Because I'm breaking that cycle. My mother wanted to create a perfect family legacy. She wanted a daughter who reflected well on her, who made her look good, who never caused problems. When I failed to be that daughter, she erased me. But here's what she didn't understand. Her legacy died the moment she chose reputation over her own child. The family name she was so desperate to protect means nothing now because she contaminated it with conditional love and cruel abandonment. My legacy is different. It's built on second chances and unconditional acceptance. It's built on the family I chose and the family I'm raising. It's built on the knowledge that you can survive the worst thing you've ever done and still become someone worth knowing. I'm not perfect. I'm a recovering addict. I'm someone who stole from the people who loved me and hurt them deeply. Those things are part of my story, and I own them. But I'm also a mother, a wife, a college graduate, a successful professional, a person who survived abandonment and homelessness and built a life worth living. My parents wanted me to fail without them. Instead, I succeeded, and that success, quiet, steady, built on my own terms, is the only revenge I needed. Look, I need to say something about this story because I know some people are going to have strong opinions. Yes, Tiffany stole from her family. Yes, that was wrong. Addiction doesn't excuse theft, and she's owned that from the beginning. But here's what gets me. Her family didn't just set boundaries. They didn't just say, we can't have you in the house until you're stable. They completely erased her from existence. They left her homeless. They threatened everyone else not to help her. They turned family and friends into weapons against her recovery. That's not tough love. That's cruelty disguised as consequences. And the fact that they only wanted back in when a baby appeared, that tells you everything. They didn't care about Tiffany's recovery, her success, her marriage, or her happiness. They cared about access to a grandchild and what that would look like to other people. Marilyn literally said, "You're welcome for abandoning her daughter on the streets." Like she did Tiffany a favor by cutting her off completely. That's not a parent. That's someone who views their children as reflections of themselves rather than whole human beings. And Tiffany's decision not to let them near her daughter, that's not revenge. That's protection. That's breaking a cycle of conditional love and teaching her child that family means something different. Some people don't deserve second chances with you. Not because you can't forgive them, but because they've shown you exactly who they are, and your job is to believe them. Tiffany doesn't owe her parents anything. She doesn't owe them access to her child. She doesn't owe them the opportunity to rewrite their cruelty as tough love. What she owes is protection to her daughter and peace to herself. And that's exactly what she's giving. If this story reminded you that protecting your peace is more important than keeping toxic people happy, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about boundaries, justice, and breaking cycles. Have you ever had to cut off family for your own well-being? How did you handle it? Share your experience in the comments. I read every single one. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's living so well that their opinion becomes completely irrelevant. And sometimes justice is just saying no and meaning it.